Yes. Very shocking. Yes, terrible. But I am glad that I know now. And I was telling people about it, telling them to join, because any photography community that is present in our country, I always get very excited about it, because as I was just sharing, we are very small groups within the country itself. And it's always a pleasure to meet people who are kind of on the same wavelength as me. So, just to start, a second.
I'll try.
Thank you. So it's good to have help. Yeah, so Chad already spoke about all of this. So you can just continue. So I'll just go straight into it. Photography, as you guys heard, has been a passion of mine since I was a teenager. My uncle actually put my first camera in my hands. He was the one that inspired me to get out there and go. Even though he still calls me and asks, what are you doing today? Did you take a picture today? What are you doing? And I know it may sound like harassment, but I actually am very grateful for that kind of encouragement. Because sometimes, as you all may know, as photographers, sometimes we may not feel like taking a picture, you know? What is it important to keep doing? So, these beautiful ladies that you see up here on the screen are just some of the women that I have photographed from 2020 to 2021, somewhere between there. And it was birthed out of an initiative I wanted to start with women and gender-based violence. When I returned home from Trinidad in 2020, there was a very drastic difference within our society. I mean, crime was always present, but I think in that year specifically, women were, it felt like as though women were being hunted. It was the same year that Andrea Barrett was murdered, also Ashanti Riley, and many others. And I remember feeling this obligation, this pull. I was like, okay, I have so many things to say on this topic. Photography has to be real. Because usually I am somebody who is very opinionated. My mother's in the back there, she can attest it. But as an artist, I use my craft to share my opinion or voice my opinions. So I decided that I would go into the streets of our country and document the responses from women around the island of Trinidad. So first I went to the public library in Port of Spain. I also went to Eddie Hart, Savannah, and I also went to South Park. And reason being, I wanted to, as much as possible, get different responses from different demographics. So I put out an ad. I didn't know who was going to come, but I felt like it was something I just had to do. So I set up my lights, my backdrop. My dad was there driving me around, being my assistant. And I photographed 50 plus women for this particular project. And it is still continuing. Thank you so much. So this is just what it looked like. As I said, it was very informal. I wanted it to be public because I wanted not just the end result to be publicized, but I also wanted people who were passing by to question what was happening. I wanted to raise the curiosity. And so this is why it was important for me to go out in public. Even though I knew who I was going to meet on that day, people kept coming up. I even photographed women who didn't sign up because they were just like, oh my goodness, I love what you're doing. I have so much to say. Can I be a part of the project? And we'll get into a little bit of that while we are progressing the presentation. against her actual response. It was very important for me to not curate what the woman had to say. I asked them very open-ended questions like, has anybody ever asked you how you feel about gender-based violence? How do you feel about what is happening in our country today? If you have any advice for how we can improve these issues in our society, what advice would you give? So they were very open-ended questions because I wanted the woman to not feel pressured to answer in a particular way. I was not particularly interested in, what would I say, repeating trauma that had already happened to some of these women, but I really wanted to be a part of the solution. Lo and behold, somebody was paying attention, and I got a call from Siba Small, who is an editor at the Tobago Express, and she knew what I was doing and she wanted to cover the story. When I saw that, I said, well, two things. My reason for doing it in public was a good idea because it's not only getting the attention of the women, but also the wider community. And then came this. So, as the child had mentioned, while he was reading my bio, Fill the Streets was one of the images that I guess, globally recognized for. And I love this image because I took it at a time where I was kind of discouraged. I went out to a vigil. I saw something on Instagram saying there could be a vigil in the Queen's Park, Savannah. And when I turned up, there were like 5 people there. I was like, this is a scam, like, is it really happening? There weren't a lot of people there. You know, I was feeling a bit disappointed because, you know, I came out with my camera and actually hustled my father out of his bed, asking him to come with me, but something happened. I actually had to check myself and say, you know, just because it may not look like a photographic scene doesn't mean there isn't anything there. So, at that small gathering, this young woman, she was there with her daughter, who is pictured, and while I was photographing, I saw when she knelt down and she looked into the candle as if it was some crystal ball, something that was mesmerizing her. And I thought to myself, why is this child here? It was probably 9:30 in the night. There are no street lights inside of the savannah, maybe around, but not inside. So it was late. It may have been dangerous for her and her mother to be out. And it occurred to me that gender-based violence does not only affect women like me, women like you, women like you, but it also affects them, the future generation. Here she is, probably not more than, I would say, 3 or 4 years old, out at night attending a vigil. I think it was Katisha Kuju at the time. So, this image, I would say, was a turning point in the Her Voice project, which is the current project that I'm talking about. Because I realized that I was thinking about it one-sided. I was thinking about going and talking to women who could actually express themselves very clearly. But I didn't think about women like her, or young women like her, who probably can't articulate themselves as well. But this image, when you look at this image, it says a lot. And so this is, as I said, that image is what brought about this award. Let me first say that if you feel like something in my case, Holy Spirit is not revealed, do something, just I got the notification, I would say more than 5 times, from different people telling me, please apply to this award, this will be amazing. making up a bunch of excuses. But because I am used to, I would say, living life on the edge, just doing things without having it fully figured out, I apply them. And I won. So what that whole world allowed me to do was go to Italy. I never dreamed of going to Italy. It wasn't even in the forefront of my mind, not even in the background of my mind. And I was able to meet some of these beautiful women. Some of them, the one that's specifically in the top left corner is 84 years old. She speaks clearly, coherently, walks on her own, goes to parties, goes to tea. She speaks fluent Italian and Sardinian, but we connected. Her name is Maria. So what I did in Trinidad, I actually took to Italy. Although I had to have a translator on hand and at times it was difficult communicating, the connection was still very much there. What was interesting to me when I went to Italy is that although the culture was totally different, the way of life was totally different, women were still experiencing similarities as a woman here in Trinidad when it came to gender-based violence. Probably not in the same way, but I would say in terms of their traditional way of life, you know, women being the caretakers in the home, women not being expected to go very far in education, women expected to be quiet. When I went to the bar, I didn't go to drink money. When I went to the bar, there were no women there. And I was told by one of the other women that women don't go to the bar. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so I was able to talk to all of them. I was also able to go a step further in actually getting some audio recordings, which you will hear a bit later, about their experiences. And so, again, I just want to put it out there. If you get that much, to apply, to fly to Alaska to take pictures of polar bears, do it. There's no limit. The only limitation is you. You are in charge. Of course, God is in charge first, but you are in charge. You have the final decision to make. Am I going to take this chance, or am I going to just make excuses? I don't have money. I don't have time. I'm unlucky. I've never won anything in my life. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Yes? Continue, please. Yes, and these are just some of the images closer. And I just want to say also about the artist residence, see that I would also highly recommend it to anyone that has not done residency. It was actually my first time, and it was a season of growth. Like, not just personally for me, but my work went from here to here. Just having that personal space, that time to just communicate with fellow artists. They weren't all photographers, some were painters, some were storytellers, some were into theater, but we were all able to point each other. We were all inspiring each other by everything. And of course, I was in a totally different country, not speaking the language, eating different food. So I was having a totally different experience, which had a great effect on my work. Okay. And hopefully our video will play.
Click on it.
Yes, click on it.
Let's click the red button to the center.
No, I tried to do it.
Hold on, sorry. Just click on the button there for a bit. Now the mouse not connected. Use the drop button.
There we go. Stop it. See the face. Oh, wait. Oh. This is a PDF. Okay. We'll figure it out later. I understand what you're trying.
It's not where the video is not where it's supposed to be.
But you can continue. We'll look at it later. It was just a video compiling some of the work that I did.
We could always share it on the page. We'll share it on the page.
Yes, most definitely. So, all of these things, I'm going to tell you about myself is a question. Sure. If you don't mind. How long was your residency? Yes, 3 months. Wow. Yes. I basically became what do you call it? An honorary citizen of the state. It was called Millis. There was a lot of tears and people pulling on my legs when I was leaving. Don't go, don't go. But I would definitely go back. And I think 3 months was the perfect time frame for me to get settled, but also to get to know the community, especially for my project. It was about talking to women, listening to them a lot. So as I stayed longer, I was able to go back and talk to them, not just twice, 3 times, 4 times, and see them at the market, you know, at whatever party they had that night. And so each time I spoke to them, I got a little more information. I got to know them a bit more. So the question is, how did all of this happen? If I'm being completely honest, I still question it even today. But before I came in, I actually tried to sit down and think about, okay, because people really come up to me and ask me like, how do you know about these competitions? How do you get access to these things? How are you a person that had no money and ended up in Italy for 3 months? Explain. So, the first thing I'd like to talk about is personal branding. Does anybody have an idea what personal branding might look like, especially for photography? Those are rush. Anybody else?
Your name.
Sorry?
Your name.
Yes, your name is very important as well. Document your efforts. Okay. Very good, very good. We are thinking, I like that. So, personal branding, especially for photography, has to look like when somebody looks you up on Google, what are they going to find? Are they going to find a picture of you from 2015 at a party on Facebook? If you're branding yourself as a photographer, are they going to, I don't know, see pictures of your dog when you don't have an ice cream, or are they going to see a photo of your look? Are they going to read about something you commented on artistically? Who are you on the internet? Who are you when you are not around? When people are asking about you, can they easily access information about you? Very easy question. How will people know you if they can't find you? Now I know that some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts, some of us don't like social media, some of us don't like the internet. But there are still ways, besides the internet, to get your brand out there. Podcasts are still a thing, talking to people still a thing, gathering together like this, even better. So, if you are not currently making an effort to get your work out there, and this is if you really want to. I am a professional photographer and a practicing artist. So my aim is to get my work out there. Maybe you are a hobbyist, maybe you are still, thinking about, okay, what kind of photographer do I want to present as? Do I even want people to see my pictures? These are questions we all need to ask ourselves. How do we want to be seen? What do we want to be known for? If we want to be known, if if we want our work to get out there, then we have to be brave enough sometimes and not even know what we're doing and still take the lead and put something on it. You never know who's your work. Never. I've met people on the street who's like, oh, you see camera girl? You see photographer? I don't know them from Adam, they don't know me. What? They saw a picture on the internet and they saw my name attached to it. And just being honest, those have been some of the ways I've done jobs, some of the ways I've been able to collaborate on projects because I make an effort. It is very tight, I will admit. I make an effort to put myself out there. Although sometimes it might make me feel uncomfortable and like comparing myself to other photographers, I'm not good enough, I'm still starting, I'm too young, forget all that. Just put yourself out there because you never know who will see you. So this is just a screenshot of my website. When you type GabriellaWyke.com on Google, this is the first thing you will see. You will have an opportunity to view some of the projects that I've done and also some of my clients because I like to separate these. Just because, you know, professional photographer Gabby and artist photographer Gabby are same people, but different personalities. So I like to keep them separate. So if you don't have a website, silence. Anybody have their website yet?
Yeah.
Yes? Good. Anybody was thinking about doing their website? I guess I'm still having done it. No, I mean, honestly, I think having a website was one of the best investments that I've made because although I am present on social media, when I communicate with people who are not present on social media, the first thing they ask me for, do you have a website? Chad will tell you, when applying for the Idea House workshop, that is one of the question boxes that they have. Please give us your website. You know why? Because they want to see your work. It's one of the easiest ways to present your work. I have been through the ringer with having to pull images from 5 different flash drives, trying to put it in a PDF, trying to organize them perfectly well. Now, all I say, oh, just go to GabriellaWyke.com. You find everything you need there. Trust me, it is worth it. And this question is one of my favorite questions to ask photographers. What does your voice look like? It might sound grammatically incorrect, but bear with me, I'm asking it very specific for a very specific reason. What does your voice look like? As a photographer, or as photographers, we all have opinions. Some people are louder with their opinions than others, but we all have opinions, even if we don't notice. Even if you're taking pictures of flowers, dirt, I don't know, the Great Wall of China. Every image that we put out there, we don't just see things and like them just because. There's some desire, some idea, some opinion in the back of our mind pushing us to make that particular decision. It may tell people that you're not as genuine as you may seem. So when I went in the first time, I think for an hour, I just walked around the gym talking to people. Hi, how are you doing? My name is Gabriella. I just came to chill, and then eventually when they stopped noticing that I was around, that's when I pulled out the camera. That's when I got images like this. And my dear Punisha, this is a woman. She is 96 years old. When I came to her house, she walked all by herself, all the way to the door, no cane, no nothing, and she's speaking fluent Sardinian. And what I had, my friend who was translating to me, she wanted to make me coffee. She was so excited that I was coming to her house to photograph her. And she's 96. And again, the same rules apply. When I walked into her house, I was myself. I wasn't trying to present as some big shot or whatever, you know, I fly all the way from the Caribbean to come and meet you. You have to let me take a picture. No. I had respect. First of all, she's 96 years old. And my mother taught me that I have to respect my elders. So, just as I learned in Trinidad, the same rules that I took over there and applied. Even in I would say a professional setting. And it took, I would say, 2 hours of conversation for me to get this image. At first she was kind of like, oh, I'm too old for pictures. Could you Photoshop my wrinkles out? She wouldn't even smile at first. She said, I don't smile for pictures. What? Here we are. The image of her smiling. Continue. Community. This one is very, very important. Say it with me. Community is very, very important. Community is very, very important. Right? And I think just by you guys showing up here tonight, you already understand the value of community. Now, community could be taken in a lot of, I guess you could think about it in a lot of ways. But in terms of the artistic community, the photographic community, it is something that I have found very valuable, very grounding. I remember when I came back from SCAD, Atlanta, I was like a fish out of water. I was like, I've spent how many years in the US now, and I don't know anybody here, at least people who are photographers. So I went with my fast self on the internet, and I looked up photographers in Trinidad. Follow. Ooh, this is a lovely image. Wow, we should get together sometime. Follow. And because I got a taste of what it was like to have a community when I was in university. Everybody that I went to school with was an artist, and that's because I went to an art school. That was an experience that I had never had before. I was always the art girl, or the girl who could draw, or the girl who is the creative one in the group. But when I went to that school, it was like, everybody just like me. I felt at home, I felt supported, I felt like people understood me, I felt like I didn't have to, and I mean, you could probably attest to it. Sometimes when you're talking to your family members about an image, you're trying to explain to them, you know, the story behind the image, why you took the image, and they're just like, alright. Like they don't understand, they can't connect. Not that they don't want to, but they just don't know how. And that's what I value the most about my artistic community. I don't have to explain myself. I could laugh in a particular way and somebody across the room will understand. You know, so keep in mind, community, very, very important. Knowledge is power, community is strength, and a positive attitude is everything. Lance Armstrong. I definitely think that sometimes when we go out into different communities, sometimes we can be very intimidated because, again, we feel like we're not good enough or we're feeling too good. And we feel like we should be mixing and mingling with a particular crowd. And you may notice in Trinidad, of course, we have our cliques, especially in the art community. You know, there's a particular group that only shows at this gallery and nobody else can show there. And when they have the event and thing, they will be inviting one set of people and you only see all the pictures after. It happens all around the world. But a good attitude could get you into spaces you can never even imagine. You could be talking to somebody on the bus or somebody on a maxi. You don't know who that person is, but a pleasant attitude, that person might be having a bad day, that person might be president of so-and-so, the, I don't know, the photo editor at Reuters. You don't know. You don't know who you could be sitting next to. You don't know who would interact with you and then say, well, you know, Phoenicia, she's such a pleasant young lady, you should definitely hire her. You definitely want to work with her. I had a conversation with her at the bus stop and she was so pleasant. Oh my goodness, she's amazing. But one wrong turn, you cuss out somebody's stick because they're bad driving on the road, and then they see you sitting down in a setting like this. They might be whoever, so-and-so from wherever. You don't know how little interactions like that could affect your career or your experience in the future. And this is one of the communities that I treasure so much. This was my team at the Eddie Adams workshop, which our dearest president, Chad, will be attending this year. So if you don't know anything about the Eddie Adams workshop, it is one of the most prestigious workshops in the entire world. They choose 100 photographers globally once every year to attend the workshop. I think it's like 4 days long. But at the workshop, you get a chance to meet some of the most accomplished people in the industry. When I went, I was able to talk to people from Google, Washington Post, Reuters, what's this other this very famous one, Vogue, the New York Times. And I'm talking about not just people who work there. I'm talking about vice presidents, editors, people who could actually make things happen, right? And the great thing about this workshop was that you didn't have to make an appointment to talk to these people. They were the people giving us our soup. They were the people putting out our food. They were actually there to serve. And the great thing is, none of them are actually paid to be there. They all volunteer. So they come already with the attitude of service, of giving back. They want photographers, all photographers to have a good shot. So if you ever have the opportunity to apply, this year's application has already passed. It's usually around...
This one closed off in, I want to say March or April.
Right, usually probably around that time. But it usually happens in October. You have to pay to get yourself there, but I'm telling you, it is worth it. The entire experience was like, it was like I walked into a museum and I was just like, wow, 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 wow.
Where is it in this?
New York City.
New York.
Yes, Jeffersonville. Takes place on, kind of like, it's not a city, it's more like a kind of area. Yes, kind of
Rural kind
country,
of.
yes. What is great is that we're all broken up into teams. You all get a photo editor, well, I think a tech person could show you things with the cameras or whatever. You also get cameras to rent. Canon is one of the main sponsors. So you could try out all the new gear. You could get wonderful discounts because once you are a student of Eddie Adams workshop, you now have all these wonderful connections with people. So as I said again, when it comes around next year, apply. Don't be afraid. It's for any photographer. It doesn't matter what genre of photography you concentrate in. It's for anyone.
How long was the workshop?
I believe it was 4 days.
4 days. It sounds 4 days.
But let me tell you something about those 4 days. doing portfolio reviews, 11 p.m. It was crazy. But very, very impactful. I mean, not just photographers sharing about, how they got to their success or whatever, but they were sharing really intimate details about, balancing motherhood and being a professional photographer. Balancing, when people lose their jobs, like, what do I do now as a photographer? Do I quit photography? Do I go out and get a regular job? Like, it was so emotional too. They really came in a very genuine way to present to us, and I think that's what impacted me the most. It's an experience that I will never forget. So apply. And this is the picture of all of us who attended the workshop. I am right there in the yellow jacket, right there in the front. But this is the band. We got together for those 4 nights in the band, presentation after presentation. Probably had about 3 lectures per day. We all got assignments at the end. We had to do it old school. You take your images, you don't get to delete any. You send them all to your photo editor. They choose the best images and then they put together a presentation on behalf of the team. And well, of course, special prizes are awarded to most promising photographers who attended. Some people got jobs, and not just any old job. Jobs as paid jobs, I would say, as photographers in these very famous newspapers and that kind of thing. Some people got money, some people got cameras. I could talk about it forever, right? But the point is, apply. This one is something I strongly believe in, being correctly positioned. Now, when I started traveling with my family, it wasn't by choice. My dad, he's a retired military officer, and wherever he went, we had to go. There was no question about it. The family is going. So at first, I threw my tantrums. It's like, this is not fair. I have to leave all my friends or my family. And it took me a few years to understand the privilege that I had in being able to go live all over the world. Washington, D.C., Toronto, Atlanta, wherever it is we ended up. I always met somebody there. In fact, when I went to Toronto, I had my first photography class. I learned about film, I learned about pinhole photography, if anybody pinhole fans out there. And my professor actually encouraged my parents. He said, "You all need to buy a camera." And they took it very seriously. I got my first camera that year, and I have been taking pictures ever since. So being correctly positioned is something that I take very seriously, and it really comes from a deep-seated knowledge, knowing where you are at this particular time in your life. You have to grow. It doesn't matter where you are. You might feel like right now life is not lifing, like it mightn't have the best opportunities, things might be going crazy, but wherever you are right now, there's a reason. It might not be glamorous, might not be fun, but there's always beauty in adversity. Being correctly positioned is something that has changed my career significantly. It has put me in rooms with people I never thought I would meet, given me opportunities I never thought I would get, and just to say that wherever you are now, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Your job now is to find out, why am I here? What's available? What do I have in my hand? I have a camera. What should I be doing with this camera? Just things to think about. So I brought up this image because it was one I took during that same period when Andrea, she was still missing, and there was this big protest in Queen's Park Savannah. I don't know if anybody saw it. I, for one, never saw anything like that in Trinidad, at least in my generation. I was like, I need to go. I need to be there. Nobody didn't tell me to go. I think I was coming from an event, and I literally was scrummaging in my bag looking for extra batteries. And I went out there, and this is one of the images I captured. To this day, people still go on my page and like this image. Wherever they are, in Venezuela, in Alaska, wherever they are, they see this image and they connect to it. And going back to being currently positioned, I wasn't on a job. It wasn't a special project. This was actually the first time as I was telling you before, I felt compelled to get involved in what was going on with women and gender-based violence at the time. And it was one of the first images I think really keyed in my brain that photography is not just about, at least for me, is not just something I love, but it's something that can affect real change. And that to me was like mind-blowing. I was like this camera have magic in it, but it's not that in it. The camera is a tool, a simple tool, a wonderful tool that we all love. But again, what is your story? What does your voice look like?
I know that image.
You know that image? You see?
Yeah, absolutely. I know people in that image too.
Really good.
Yeah, on your answer.
See? The proof is in the pudding.
That's nice.
Sure.
I know what I mean.
Excuse.
Sure, you can go ahead.
I noticed something in your pictures in there. Now, you prefer black and white and color, or because the reason why, take for instance the one with the, I think when you said more was 90 years or something.
Yes.
Right. If that picture was colored, it would not have
Been impactful.
well, I looking for a special wood for it. In other words, then it would not have.
Capture the essence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in that. What you say, what you told you to take on wrinkles, the wrinkles that make that picture perfect.
Can't agree more. And I'm glad you brought up that question because some people ask me all the time, why are you always taking pictures in black and white? Why this, why that? And I have a perfectly good explanation. So my kind of work, at least the way I see it, is all about capturing attention. Because the issues that I am discussing in my work call for a certain audience. It calls for a large audience, and I would like to capture people's attention instantly. When I think about black and white photography, I think about history. I think about those images that we see in history books of presidents and famous people. I think about the newspaper. Whatever we see in the newspaper, something immediately goes off in our mind. This is important. If it is in the newspaper, it must be important. So black and white for me, it gives that sense of urgency, but there's also a timeless quality about it. So when you look at it, you can't necessarily decide in your mind, was this picture taken in 2010? Was it taken in 2023? When was it taken? And that for me is it perfectly aligns with what I'm trying to say. Because the issues that I'm discussing in my work are not just for today, but they are issues I'm discussing, particular issues. I think black and white is the best way to get it across. But thank you so much.
I got buffed up on Eddie Adams pre-interview with our team leader about saying that same thing that color is distracted.
I'm going to say it all depends, and it's very interesting that someone of your era is looking at what black and white means to you,
Yeah.
which for me is very different. for me.
Okay, would you mind sharing what it means for you?
Black and white is, for me, okay, some pictures, like you say, okay, they look great in black and white, but I'm a color person. So for me, it's like, that would have been real speaking to me, boy, if I really had black color. You know, the whole the feistiness of that particular, in this particular event,
Right.
there was a lot of emotion and a lot of this, and black and white doesn't do it for me.
For sure, for sure.
So it all depends on what your story is, and every visual art piece needs to tell the story that the person wants it to tell, and hopefully somebody gets it. And that's fine. And I like your approach, and I like how you feel about it. I just find for me it's different viewers. That's all.
Question, do you think it's to do with giving away our age that when we started photography it was mainly black and white,
Maybe.
and when you started it was obviously colour, and therefore you, the opposite of what is normal is black and white,
Yes.
where for us it's the opposite.
And that's the great thing about art in general. Art is very subjective. So I might look at it in one way while somebody else might look at it in another. And that's perfectly fine. But what I always like to say is that if you are doing something, stand firmly on why you are doing it.
I think perspective now is very interesting, especially for people in different generations, to be able to appreciate how people see things and why they see it. And that's what makes the story.
Totally agree.
Gabby, is your art, the art you do, not photography, as art of art, is that very colorful, or is that also more
All of it looks like this. I mean, so my art started looking like this in my last year of college. It was something I didn't notice at first that I was doing because I actually photograph in color. I usually have 2 copies handy. Just because I'm dealing with clients, some of them are like, can you show me the color vision, please? So I always, it's just like a default setting in my mind, always have the colored image. And even when I went to the Eddie Adams workshop, I was also asked the same question, why do I photograph in black and white? Do I have colored examples? And I would say, yes I do, but this is what I prefer. And back to this image. I wanted to come back to this image because I think just now we need to go back to the question in the beginning. You make sure I don't stray too much. Right, be in correct position. So you can go back to the image now. Thank you so much. As I was saying earlier about this particular image, I went in there very excited. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a vigil, there are going to be so much things out there for me to capture. I think I probably took like, I would say maybe 50 images that night, which is very, very low for me. That's because I was not very enthused. I didn't even notice that I took this image until I actually put everything up into the computer and I was like, oh, it was like probably the only image I took for the entire night that actually, you know, I was like, okay, this is an image. And again, being correctly positioned. If I know that my current work is talking about gender-based violence, I need to know where everything is happening. Are they doing any events? Are they having any protests? Are there any people sharing their stories in public forums? Are there people I can interview? It's about continuously thinking about your work, not in a unnatural sense, because sometimes I think we do need to step away from our work, especially this kind of work can be very heavy. I remember coming back from Italy and I was like, I didn't look at the images for like weeks because the content is very heavy. So yes, I have to separate myself from my work sometimes, but I'm always thinking about it. I'm always very excited. How can I add to the project? What's going on? I try to work with my camera as much as possible. Sometimes I think about, you know, security and like, and I try to play around. in Port of Spain or whatever. But sometimes you have to forget all of that, you know. Because there are so many times I am either walking on the street or passing and I'm like, that was a perfect image. And I have no camera. None.
Phone photography.
Yes. I mean, I am not opposed to phone photography at all. I always encourage people to think that, you know, the camera that you have at a given time, yes, she knows what I'm talking about. The camera that you have at that given time is a camera for you. It isn't about tech. It isn't about the most updated tool. What do you have in your hand? I know, like, in our community, you know, there's a lot of conversations about staying up to date and always getting a new thing. And don't worry about all of that. What do you have in your hand? That's the most important camera you'll ever have at any given time. Yeah? Continue, please. Thank you. I could talk all night though, so. Feel free to ask questions if you
don't
do.
run out of that though yet.
Okay, good.
Well, David, yes, when David ready to pick us up.
I think.
So are you going to pick us up and we have any?
Oh,
Yeah, that's good. Let's take one here. And I think this is the last point. Staying sharp and stay open. What I mean by staying sharp? Stay connected. Don't settle. I know a lot of actors in general, just not only photographers, sorry, who just comfortable where they are. You know, I've been painting for 50 years now, and this is how I've always painted. Great, wonderful. What else have you been doing? What else have you been exploring? Are you going to talk about the different blues in the Caribbean Sea for 50 years? And I'm not knocking anyone, but I want us to start thinking about expansion, thinking about growth. Do I want to stay where I am, or do I want to evolve? Do I want to see my work take a different turn? And sometimes those turns may be uncertain, but they are always very exciting. And staying open, most importantly. I remember one of my professors, she said to me that when you release that image into the world, it no longer belongs to you. And I was like, oh, absurd of her to say. I was devastated. What you mean? It's not my image anymore. And it's only after that I really thought about what she said. And I take it to mean that when you put something out into the world, as we were discussing earlier, it's all about being subjective.
Manifesting other people.
Yeah, exactly. You might be talking about the sun rising, and somebody else probably seeing, I don't know, something they're seeing some other meaning in your thing. Are you going to stand up arguing about them during the exhibition about being wrong about the concept that you were trying to portray? No. Stay open. It is so much better when we can disagree and still be respectful. We can disagree and still be open to new ideas. Because being closed is like everything that could make your life better, it just bounces off. Just bounces off. This is the door, you are inside the door, all good things coming to you, and they're just sliding off because we are not open, we are not always open to new things. And I, for one, was one of those people. I was so hurt while I was in college. I did a whole project on change because I was struggling for years about how things were just rapidly changing in my life. As I said, our family moved tremendously while I was a teenager. I missed my entire Form 3 year, and when I came back, my classmates were totally different people, and I didn't know how to connect to them. Some of them I lost, probably have a could count how many on one hand I'm still connected with. And it's because I was not very receptive of change. But as artists, change is the best thing that could happen to us. Because being the same forever is not worth it. Be open to change, be open to growth, be open to evolving. And opportunities. One of the questions that people always ask me about, how do you get these opportunities? And I strongly believe that opportunities are always out there, but issue is we don't know how to look for them. So, going to an art university, they don't just teach us how to use our tools or how to become better artists, but they actually taught me, at least, how to plug in to my community, how to specifically search for things that would give me a better chance at being successful. So, as a young black woman from the Caribbean, who at the time was an international student in Atlanta, Georgia, who just happened to be doing a project on black men, when I was looking for opportunities, I was using all those keywords. Scholarships for photographers, black female photographers. Use your keywords. Your keywords are very important. Yes, I know some people don't like to use the race card, but the race card is helpful. It is so helpful. There are so many grants out there for Caribbean people, people of color, women, people of different gender persuasions. Exactly, there's something for everybody. Because it's easy for us to sit and say, well, there's nothing out there for artists. Trinidadians don't appreciate art. I want to go somewhere else where there is so much more opportunity. But right there, there are plenty of opportunities, but we don't know how to look for them. So use your keywords. That's one of the tips I will share with you today. Keep going, please. This is a tool that I found very helpful. If you have like your phone out or a notebook, take note of this. This is, I guess, not necessarily an organization, but one of the email listings that I'm a part of, they send opportunities every month. Fresh opportunities. They tell you which one is free, which one is paid, which one is open to women. You can actually key in your specific needs, and well, of course, the algorithm will catch on as to the kind of things that you're looking for. But this is something that I have been connected to for, I would say, past 2 years. I've applied to things through this. Have I been successful in all of them? No, but that's not the case. The case is that I'm applying. Because guess what happens? When you apply, exactly, you get on an email list. Whoever the juror is, wherever they are, although you might not be the successful one, you might just be the photographer that they wanted to win, but didn't. When they have a project coming up, guess who they call it? So, if you can't take down the name of the site as picked up, you just put in like your information, you can get on the email list, it will send you all the information. Like I said, they're not all paid opportunities. However, don't knock the paid ones, because sometimes the paid ones are actually the ones, the better ones to apply to. But always apply. I've tried my best to try to apply to at least 3 opportunities every month. And it is very exhausting, let me tell you. Getting 3 no's for 6 months in a row is not the best thing for your confidence, right? However, I have grown enough, I think, by now, where it has become a practice. So I don't even think about it. And because, well, the algorithm is so accurate these days, when I am just scrolling on my phone, they send anything. Apply to this opportunity, grant for artists, residencies, etc., etc. So be very careful in what you're searching as well. If you want to get a certain content, try, looking for those things and they will come back to you.
Question.
Sure.
When you're looking for your opportunities, do you only look for photographic or do you look for artist residencies? Or you can't remember, they know why I'm asking. Because there are lots of residencies and lots of grants for artists, and if photographers don't consider themselves artists, they actually slice themselves totally out of that.
That is an amazing point that you just made. How many of us in the room consider ourselves to be artists? Okay, so somebody who did not raise their hand, would you please mind sharing with us why you as a photographer don't consider yourself an artist? Anybody?
Well, I am not just a photographer. I consider myself a creative person.
Okay.
So I would not say an artist. I do photography, I do writing, I also sew, I create things out of cloth. And therefore I would consider myself a creative person. I'm not, I wouldn't say, forgive me if I say limit, but I wouldn't limit myself to an artist or a photographer. So that was why my hands on these.
Kind of question. So everything you've spoken about is a visual, with the exception of your storytelling, which you do write, it's all visual art. So by this definition of visual, you are an artist in various different mediums.
Yes.
Okay. But, and again, that's fine. Now, I do know she's a fabulous storyteller. And all her creative things always tell stories. So, does that, but yeah, it's just where you have to think. Now, it may not be what you want to do. You might be a creative who doesn't want to do what is available out there for artists, visual artists, performing artists. And that's fine. But you're an artist, sorry to tell you.
Talking to people on the outside and the way how they look at photographers as just somebody taking a picture, especially portrait pictures. And one of the reasons I have observed is that, you see this? Is what only thing that they know. In that, when you take on, as I say, portrait, and when you tell them you want them in like a certain position, you want them to look a certain way, they have problem. You take it so long, so they look at you as an ordinary person, just with how should I put a big thing with a long lens, whatever it is, just taking out pictures. They don't look at it as you're trying to create, you see like the same lady that they showed how she looked. They don't understand what you're trying to create a person like that. Right? They just look at it and this is one of the reasons why that they just take it and that they're comfortable with that.
Can I interject that?
Sure. I love it.
So, I think it kind of goes back to you say about personal brands too, right? So, for instance, you're saying that they just view you as a person taking a picture, not like in any particular way. But, it's like Annie Leibovitz. Like if Annie Leibovitz come, you would sit for her, you're not going to tell her how to do her job, right? So I think it would kind of go back to like that personal brand part of it, where it's more like you're known for this and they should respect you for what you're known for. And by extension, they would like just do what they need to do because they know you for that, right? Whereas if you're just like presenting yourself as you said, just taking a picture without like really showing why the intention behind it, then it might come off as like, oh, you're just doing whatever. I don't know if I made any sense.
No, that is the reason why, well, some of them will know me here, that I had never liked portrait photography. And the only reason why I get into it is because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I've been still going out here
Yeah.
and doing it. One of the members of the group always used to tell me, hey, Miss Norton, come out your comfort zone.
Something different.
Yeah, try something different. Right? I had to do, otherwise the camera, if I do take it out now, it might have cobweb inside of it. Right? But to occupy myself, I do friends, family, and they always had why had someone turn your body so? And I used to try and say, explain to them, but it's so long. If I go by so and so, I'm sure you will take it out fast and all this kind of thing. So that is some of the problems and then with how they look at a photographer. Like I told a couple of times, I say, but I had some pictures with animals that went to the zoo. I say, I didn't have to tell them how to pose it. How to put the bun. Right? So that's how basically how some people look at photographers. That just somebody with a camera in their hand, whether with a long lens or short lens, whatever type of lens, and just snapping picture.
All very great points. And like I said, I told you that I can stand here and talk about forever. But I don't want to miss out on what each person shared. You brought up a very good point of how we view ourselves. You also said personal branding. The most important thing is how do you see yourself. If you are unsure of how you want to present yourself, or you are unsure about who you are, how can you expect somebody else to, call you something you're not? So I saw you all having a conversation there about you want to present as a creative person, and you were suggesting that regardless, you are an artist.
Creative, all creatives are artists.
Right.
You are either an artist or an artiste. If you're a creative, you are either performing or you are visually doing something.
Right.
Right.
And I think the most important thing is how do you see yourself? That's the most important. And another thing you brought up is that we have to battle with technology. The phones are like crazy on steroids. Every time you turn around, it's a new phone. And of course, you have people who feel their phone better than your camera. And because their phone camera could take great pictures, that means they are better photographers than you. I know it's very easy to get in arguments that way, but I promise you, it just adds more to the conversation. And personal branding, back to that. How do you want to present yourself? And terms are just a fancy way of getting your point across. Especially depending on what opportunity you're applying to. You might categorize yourself as a storyteller. You might categorize yourself as a creative. You might categorize yourself as an artist or even a photographer. But it's like when you're making your resume. You don't just send out the same resume to 10 different jobs. No, you have to sit down and you have to tailor it. You have to, put this here, and move up what is most relevant to the position, to the top. Because you want it to be relevant to whoever is employing you. It's the same thing about putting your work out there. What is the best package at that given time? I'm going to speed up because I think we're running a little over.
If you want, we could, you could close off the formal part because we have pizza and we have some drinks and stuff. So we could, carry on in our. So I don't know if you're almost done there, you can just
But yeah, just to wrap up, thank you for listening. Thank you for chatting and going back and forth and exchanging. I'm very honored to be here. I look forward to joining the Photographic Society now that I know that it's alive and well. And any lasting questions? No,
For
yes.
us, we're going to food pizza.
And there's just one more thing I forgot to put in the presentation as well. If anybody is interested, I actually just launched a photography mentorship program, and it will be starting on the 7th of October. It's really to help guide photographers on their journey. I'm not necessarily going to teach you how to use your camera, although I can, if it is needed, but I really want to be able to help guide people in terms of how do I see myself as a photographer? What kind of a photographer do I want to be? If I want to be a photographer who is just professional and, you know, I just want to make money, how do I do that? So if anybody's interested, I'm only taking 10 people at a time. I believe there are 4 spots remaining. So if you're interested, let me know. I'll send you the information. I'll give you the deets, I'll give you the tea. But yes, just wanted to put that out there. I think it will be a very interesting time being able to sit one-on-one with all of you or whoever is a part of it. Thank you so much.